Morning Express it is, and it's time for us now to look at the state of the nation. Now, from Friday, we do know that there was an attack that took place in Elade camp, which is a camp that had KDF forces, and details are still scanty on exactly what happened. However, we do have pieces of information that are coming in. We do know that we've had several of the slain soldiers flown into the country. We also have some of the surviving soldiers come back home. However, we do not know how many are still out there. We do not know how many casualties there have been so far, but there are more questions than answers. And this morning, we'd like to look at what happened and vis-a-vis why it's taking so long. Some of those for that information to come out, and also find out, is there anything that could have been done differently? What lessons can we draw from what happened? And joining me now to my extreme left, we have Lieutenant Colonel retired Phillip Serem. Thank you for joining us, sir.
Thank you very much, sir.
And we also have security expert Mwenda Mbijiwe. And let me start with you, Lieutenant Colonel. And yes, first of all, just let us know where you were serving before retiring.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Gitonga. As you have said, my name is Lieutenant Colonel retired Phillip Serem. I was an Air Force officer, and my last station before I retired was Defense Headquarters, where I was in charge of manpower, career development, and manpower development. I was a staff officer there just before I retired.
Okay, yeah. Thank you. I'll come back to you, Mwenda Mbijiwe. Yes. Looking at the situation and what happened on Friday, from a security expert perspective, what is it? What are the knowns? What do we know so far?
Well, thank you this morning, and I'm glad to meet my friend again. He was my colleague and boss at the Air Force those years, and I'm glad we're here this morning together. But this far, at least we know that a couple of bodies have been flown home. A number of soldiers that are alive but were hurt in combat have also been flown home. This far, at least we know that Rangers of the Special Forces have been able to advance into the camp. They have been able to take control of the camp. So we know, at least for now, that the situation is under control. But a couple of details, like you said, are yet to be made public. And I believe Defense Headquarters is responsible enough to know that this is a story that has interest to all Kenyans. Speaking earlier last week, the Defense Cabinet Secretary Rachel Mamo said they are revealing the information or communicating the details to the families directly. And yes, I felt that Kenya was also a family. We were the family. We needed to be communicated to directly. And so I am sure, just like they did with the Operation Linda Inchi, every step they give us the briefing. In fact, there was weekly debriefing where the media and the police and everyone was invited. And so I think KDF recognizes that this is a moment to reckon, and they will be able to communicate sufficiently to, satisfy our Kenyans.
All right. Now, Lieutenant Colonel Serem, from your experience,
yes,
what can we tell in terms of the composition of the camp that was in Elade? What do we know? We are told it was a company. What does that mean? Who were there?
A company is manned by approximately about 150 personnel, and with various support elements, and is normally supposed to be deployed in such a state that it is mutually supporting with another company. It is not another company is not very far, so that in case of any attack like that, I expected mutual support from the other supporting company, and those are questions that still I really do not understand, whether the enemy cut off the other company from coming to support. That one I really don't understand.
Are there specified, say for instance, distances between the companies? Would they be very far off from this particular company?
No, it will not be very far off, because they are supposed to be mutually supporting. That is, in case one is attacked, the other one should be capable of supporting that particular company. And then also, after that attack was done on dawn, just before daybreak, we expected other support elements, but we really don't understand what
how that did not come in.
Yeah.
All right, I'll come back to you, Mwenda Mbijiwe. Now, we also know that we are told that we've heard there is the Somali National Army and there is KDF. Now, are these normally within the same camp? Is there a distance between the camps? What would be the scenario on the ground?
Reading, the famous story by KDF, captured in their own words, Operation Linda Inchi, Kenya's military experience in Somalia, official KDF account. Lots of stories are told in this book about similar attacks that were attempted, especially always against the SNA, Somali National Army. And this Al-Shabaab always wanted to attack SNA because they felt the Kenyan embankments or the Kenyan camps were strong. They were strong enough. They were, tougher and harder, to hit at vis-a-vis the SNA camps. So if you read lots of the stories in there, it looks like Al-Shabaab was coming against SNA, but SNA, as a growing child, always stayed close to the father. And close to the father was the Kenyan camp. So most places you find their camps are just, back to back. The SNA is close to the KDF, because I think also they need to learn the combat experience. They need to learn the deployment tactics and strategies, the SNA. Now, therefore, it is highly likely, and on Friday when this news broke out, me and you spent most of the much of the time in the morning. The much we knew at that time was that it was an SNA camp that was attacked, and KDF went in to support. That story has since changed, and therefore it looks like the attack was boldly against the Kenyans this time. So
the normal military practice when KDF is in Somalia, we do know that there is the Somali National Army, which Kenya, we assume, is in to support, especially in regards to terrorism and fighting terror. Now, these two camps, are they within each other? Like if you walk into a barracks, you have a barracks that is once you're entering into a barracks. Is that the kind of setup that they have, or do you have the Somali National Army in one barracks or one camp, and then you have the KDF in a different camp, but maybe within close proximity?
From the stories in the book, I've never had the opportunity to visit our troops there, but from the stories you hear in the book, and maybe Lieutenant Colonel will tell us, they are not within the same camp. It's not a camp within a camp,
right?
But they are camps close to each other, say separated with less than a kilometer away, so that in case something happens on the one hand, the other camp can support. And as Colonel said, you also wonder how far else are the other supporting companies, to the Kenyan company. To the other companies, Kenyan or Kenbat or Kenyan battalions. So these are very crucial issues that we may be able to, that we need to understand or to know now as we try to understand exactly what happened in this attack.
Okay, let me come to you, Lieutenant Colonel Serem.
Yes, sir.
What normally is military-wise, and of course I do understand that this can be very sensitive information, but what's the normal practice in terms of communication between, say, for instance, Somali National Army and KDF? Because I'm sure there must be rules and regulations. They cannot all share everything, but what's the normal communication between the two? Are they friends? Are they just helping each other? What communication is there?
I'm also, since I retired, and I don't know what kind of communication they had, but since this is a friendly state where they are developing, so that they are giving them skills, there is certain amount of limitation in terms of the kind of exchange of information that they can be given. But on this particular case, I really don't know As my brother Mbijiwe has said, I know they could be collocated. I know they could be having a telephone or a radio link. And what could have happened, as we talked yesterday, is that you see, the enemy, before he attacks, first of all, it takes time to study. And the first thing that the enemy would do when he wants to do such an attack, after he has known your weaknesses, if he knows that in case of any attack, this person is going to use this particular means of communication, then the first thing they will do is to cut off that means of communication. And that could have happened in this particular case, so that immediately the Somalian National Army is attacked, there was no way that they could communicate, because the communication has been cut off. But I really don't know. This is what I imagine could have happened.